Welcome back to ermovieon. This time we will discuss the film entitled Leave the World Behind, which will be broadcast in 2023. We recommend that you watch the film in full first, and if you want to watch it again, you can watch it on this channel. This film tells the story of incidents where technology malfunctions throughout the world. Will everything return to cruelty where there is no such thing as technology? What's the story? Straight away, without further ado, we'll discuss this film. Don't forget to prepare snacks and enjoy. The film begins by showing a family who intends to go on holiday somewhere. The father's name is Clay. His mother is named Amanda and his sons are named Arcee and Rossi, who are daughters. They all boarded a car to go to their destination, where Amanda has rented a house which will be their temporary residence. The plan is for them to go on holiday for about a week. When they got home, Amanda told her two children to have fun and enjoy the various facilities in the house. Because they didn't have food stock, Amanda rushed to go to the supermarket, which was quite far away. When Amanda had bought various foods and was planning to go home, in the parking lot he saw a man buying various foods in large quantities. Amanda was surprised why the man bought such a large amount of food. Arrived home, Clay invited his wife and two children to go to a beach not far from home. Clay received information that the beach they were going to had excellent natural beauty. Without delay, they immediately went there. When they got there, they basked in the sun. Rossi, who was looking at the beach, then said to his parents that there was a ship approaching them. Clay also thought that the ship's sailing direction might be past this beach. But a few moments later, the ship got closer to them. With great fear, everyone on the beach immediately rushed to leave. Clay and his family then decided to return to the rental house. On the way, they discussed the previous ship, which was very strange. Clay tried to think positively that the previous incident might have been an accident. In the evening, Clay and his wife spent time while their two children were sleeping. However, as the night progressed, they were both surprised when a stranger knocked on their door. When Clay opened the door to his house, there was a man who introduced himself, and his name was George, and his child was named Ruth. George then explained that he was the owner of the house rented by the Clay family. George also said he was going there at midnight because he was going out of town and it was too late. George begged to be allowed to stay overnight. Amanda, who didn't agree, apologized to George and told him to leave because he has rented this house according to the agreed agreement. George then offered Amanda that he would return 50% of Amanda's rent if he was allowed to stay. Hearing this, Clay immediately invited Amanda to his room to negotiate. In Amanda's room, she became increasingly angry and told Clay to throw George out there. Clay then tried to calm Amanda down and said that George's offer was very attractive. Clay thought that they could use the money for their vacation expenses. After negotiating for quite a long time, Clay and Amanda returned to meet George and said that they agreed to the offer made by George. Then they decided to drink together. At midnight, there was a broadcast on television informing about a national emergency, but it is not clear what actually happened. The next morning, Amanda felt confused because the signal on her cell phone suddenly disappeared. Apart from that, TV and radio broadcasts are still not connected. Clay then decided to go to the city center to find more information. In the kitchen, Amanda was visited by George. He asks if the signal on his cell phone has also disappeared. Amanda answered yes, but Amanda thought this was a normal nuisance. Meanwhile, Clay was traveling to a place where he didn't meet a single person on the street. This made Clay feel confused about what was actually happening. On the other hand, George intends to go to his neighbor's house to find more information. But apparently there was no one in the house. After going through various rooms, George found a satellite phone that had the highest signal range. When George turned on the phone, he felt confused because the satellite cell phone cannot be used. George was confused as to how a satellite phone couldn't find a signal. George then walked towards the beach, which was not far from there. On the beach, he was shocked by the number of human corpses from a plane that crashed there. Not long after, another plane appeared which also crashed in that place. Feeling panicked, George immediately rushed home. On the other hand, Arcee and her sister are shown going to the middle of the forest to get fresh air. In the forest, Arcee's leg was bitten by a very strange animal. Felt that it was just an ordinary animal. He then invited his younger brother to go home. Inside the house, George told Amanda that he had just seen a strange phenomenon with an airplane that crashed on the beach. George was confused about what actually happened. A few moments later, there was a sound wave that was so loud that their ears felt very painful. In the end, Amanda managed to find her two children and immediately invited them to return to the rental house. Inside the house, Amanda felt panicked because her husband still hadn't returned. When Amanda intended to look for him, George immediately stopped her. He said if he saw the conditions that occurred, it might be very dangerous out there. Not long after, Clay came home, which made Amanda feel very happy. He walks towards the kitchen and says that the street looks very strange because he didn't meet anyone. Clay then gave him a pamphlet he found on the street. Because the writing on the pamphlet was in Arabic, George couldn't read it. R.C., who once saw this language in a game, said that the meaning of pamphlet was destruction for America. Feeling that something was strange, Amanda invited her family to return to their home. Before leaving, George tried to prevent the Clay family from leaving, because maybe the situation out there is much more dangerous. But the Clay family still decided to leave and ignored George's words. After that, Ruth asked her father how her mother was doing. George answered that his mother would be fine. It turned out that George had stayed the night before because they wanted to pick up his mother, who had just returned from out of town by plane. Meanwhile, on the way to the urban area, Clay and his family were shocked with the existence of electric cars that can run without a driver blocking the road. Unexpectedly, the electric car came back from behind and hit another car. This incident made Clay and his family decide to return to the house they rented. Then George asked why they decided to go back. Clay also explained that the streets looked very strange. Many destroyed cars piled up on the road. This makes the roads impassable. In the evening, Amanda came to George in the kitchen, who was drinking alone. George then asked Amanda to come drink with him. Amanda happily agreed. As the night progressed, Amanda asked what George did for a living. George also answered that his job was as a consultant. George then told Amanda a secret. If in the previous few months he had a client who had a slightly strange business. He is highly skilled in various IT fields. One day he asked George for help to move a very large amount of money. After that, he said goodbye to George and would not come back. He also left a message for George to take care of himself. Heard the story from George. Amanda immediately asked about the meaning of the story. George also answered that his client had something to do with the current incident. George thought about what was happening now. It was the work of hackers that caused all technological systems to become paralyzed. Not long after, the sound waves came back with a very loud sound. This causes the lamp glass to break. This immediately woke everyone up. Then Amanda decided to sleep with her family. In the morning, R.C. woke up and vomited blood. Besides that, she also felt strange, because some of his teeth fell out for no reason. Seeing this, Amanda immediately panicked and tried to call her husband, Clay, suggesting that he take R.C. to the hospital, but remembered that the road was impassable. Amanda again felt confused about where to go. George tries to calm Amanda down, and she promises to help her by asking her neighbors for help. Clay asked Amanda where Rossi was. Ruth's bicycle was also not there in the garage. Maybe Rossi was going on a bicycle. Because he felt panicked, George divided the tasks between them all. He and Clay and R.C. will ask their neighbors for help. Perhaps he has the medicine he needs. Meanwhile, Amanda and Ruth will go looking for Rossi in the middle of the forest. On the street, Amanda kept calling out her child's name. However, Rossi has not yet been found. While at the cabin, Ruth told what was in her heart, which Amanda didn't know. Ruth said that currently she is very worried about her mother. Ruth explains to Amanda why she came to Amanda in the middle of the night before. Because he wanted to pick up his mother at the airport. However, looking at the current condition, Ruth is not sure if her mother is still safe. Hearing Ruth's story, Amanda immediately felt sad and feels guilty for suspecting George and Ruth. Meanwhile, George, Clay, and R.C. arrived at their neighbor's house. George then tried to knock on his neighbor's door and called his name Danny. George was surprised because Danny came out carrying a weapon. George then asked why Danny was carrying a gun, because he had no bad intentions towards her. Danny answered that no one could be trusted in the current situation. Danny also told George to just leave his house. Clay then interrupted the conversation and explained his purpose here. Because her child is sick and needs some medicine, which Danny probably has. Clay is also willing to give Danny $1,000 as long as he gives him medicine for his child. Danny still insisted on throwing them out because George refused to leave. Danny was forced to point his gun at George. Meanwhile, George also pointed the gun he was carrying at Danny. Seeing that the situation was getting hotter, Clay tried to calm them both down and tried to speak nicely to Danny. Clay said if Danny was in his position, what would he do? Hearing this, Danny felt sorry for him and agreed to Clay's request to exchange $1,000 for some medicines. Before leaving, Clay showed an Arabic pamphlet, which in essence is the destruction of America. Danny also said that he already knew all that, because his friend in another area had said so, and experienced something similar a few days earlier. That's why Danny bought up all the food in the previous supermarket that Amanda saw. When George was about to leave, Danny told George to go to his neighbor's unoccupied house. There are rumors that there is an underground bank in that place, which is designed to protect against the apocalypse. Turning to Amanda, he and Ruth returned to continue their search for Rossi. In the middle of the road, Ruth immediately stopped in her tracks when she looked towards the city. Amanda was surprised and immediately went to Ruth. It looks like the city is in ruins, as if there was a war going on. Turning to a house in the middle of the forest, Rossi was shown, who turned out to be in the house. At the house, Rossi found a bank there which contained quite a large amount of various food supplies. That house was none other than the house that Danny was referring to. From the monitor screen, there was information that the American White House had been taken over by military officers. All Americans are ordered to seek shelter, and then the film ends. Do you believe that one day technology will not work? And what do you think this incident was caused by? Nuclear war? Or a meteor disaster that hits the Earth? Comment, guys. Okay, that's all for this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share wherever you like. Thank you for watching. See you in another video. I hope you are always in good health and given ease in all your affairs.